and then I'm just going to pin my foot on the throttle. And there it is in 4.9 seconds. Hey crew, I've got the key to that 23 Lexus RZ 450e. And we're gonna see how long it'll take me to run out of words that rhyme, darn it. We are gonna take it for a drive, but first let's check it out. It looks on the inside and outside. The RZ is Lexus's first fully electric vehicle, and here we have it in the luxury trim, the upper of the two trim levels. At the front is a spindle-shaped face, not really a grille. You don't need all that functional cooling for an EV. There is some cooling down low, and this one's in a two-tone paint job. You gotta pay extra for the black of the face, hood, and roof to contrast this ether color. It's a light blue exterior for the rest of the vehicle. The two-tone, not really doing it for me. This vehicle looks way better in just one single color. There are projector LED headlights, DRLs and turn signals. Those are above non-functional vents at the corners. And as we step to the side, we'll see the luxury trim gets a set of 20-inch dark gray painted wheels. That's an upgrade over the 18-inch wheels on the standard premium trim. They're wrapped in Dunlop all-season tires, 235 section front and 255 at the rear. Your charge port door is here. We have gloss black for the mirror caps and window trim, along with that lower side garnish. Stepping back to look at the profile, though it is based on the same platform as the Toyota bZ4X, the RZ is about 5 inches longer overall, just about 2 inches shorter than a Lexus RX. It's got a lot of creases and swooping going on the side. Here at the back, we've got these two fin extensions. Sorry for the abrupt pause. I had to hide inside the RZ while the skies opened up and dumped a bunch of water on it. But that actually works perfectly for my discussion of why there is no rear wiper here. Lexus says that the air funneled between those fins is going to push off the water from the back glass, and that may work very well if the vehicle's at speed, but if you're moving slowly or just sitting still, the water's just gonna sit there as well. Not sure about that decision. Otherwise, we've got LED taillights and turn signals. The taillight bar spans the rear end. It says Lexus above that. There's an RZ 450 badge here, more fake vents, and a black gloss rear bumper. The design of the RZ, particularly from the rear end and profile views, is neat. The front end looks okay if you don't get this vehicle in the two-tone paint job. I'm curious, do you guys think this is better or worse looking than the Toyota bZ4X? Let me know in the comments, and let's check out the interior. Opening up by pressing the button on the back of the handle and looking inside at this Dapple Grey Suede interior on luxury trims with perforated seat inserts and available rear seat heating. Injection molding is up high in the doors with suede inserts, padded leatherette for your arm, one-touch up-down windows, hard plastics down low, and on luxury trims you get a 14-speaker Mark Levinson sound system. Stepping in, behind my own seat at 6 feet tall, I've got a good portion of knee room. The seat back's in leatherette. The foot pockets are on the narrower side, and with the batteries underneath the floor, my knees are pitched up at an angle so the thigh support suffers. Headroom is great though. That gets the thumbs up for me, and these seats can recline to lounge even further. In the middle, we've got air vents, we've got 2 USB-C ports and a DC outlet. No drive shaft hump means I can move into the middle easily, where my head once again clears the roof, which is a standard dual pane setup on luxury trims with optional electrochromatic functions, so you can go from opaque to transparent at the press of a button. As we get out, note that the door releases are tabs you press, not handles you pull. Door close noise is a very satisfying thud. We've got smart keyless entry for the rear and front doors. The front seats are power adjusting, heated, and ventilated on this luxury trim. There are RZ floor mats, aluminum tread plates. Press on this button to open up the tailgate. And behind that second row, we find 24 cubic feet of space. To fold down those rear seats 60/40, you pull on the same tabs that you use to recline the seats, and you find 55 cubic feet of space. Under the floor is storage for your charging cables, and it's a pretty deep cavity, so you can throw in some other stuff as well. I just wish the RZ also had a front trunk to complement that storage, but alas, no such luck. Power close and lock button is on the tailgate. The rain's falling heavy again. The front doors have the same materials as the back. We add power adjusting and power folding door mirrors and 3-position memory for this driver's seat. Drivers get a heated leather-wrapped steering wheel, and this is the traditional wheel, but you can also get the RZ at a future date with the steer-by-wire yoke if you like that setup. But this more familiar interaction point does feel great in the hands, and the paddles on the back of the wheel have decent travel, therefore the regen braking, increasing it or decreasing it. You've got a 7-inch TFT display, which should be a fully digital instrument cluster. This is a modern EV. That's pretty small, and it's not customizable. You can only change the color around the gauges with your drive mode. There's a head-up display, injection molding up on the dashboard, wish that was leather or leatherette. We've got a 14-inch touchscreen infotainment system that's pretty responsive. Sometimes there's delay. It's easier to use, though, thankfully, than older systems, and it's got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I am glad to see that all the climate information stays on the screen at all times. You don't get distracted while driving looking for that. And the 2 dials to adjust your temperature are very easy to use. There's a physical volume knob. We've got 3 USB-C ports, wireless smartphone charging pad, and some gloss black around the gear selector that won't wear very well. Otherwise, there's this wood-looking plastic trim that, if that was metal, I think it would make the cabin feel more premium. Leatherette topped console that opens in 2 directions, with a deep bit of storage. Visibility is compromised a little bit at those back pillars, but thankfully there's standard blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic, and you can equip a digital rear view mirror. The cabin is spacious. The suede feels soft against your skin, though if you've got kids, get full leatherette. The convenience features in front and back rows are solid. The infotainment system works most of the time. The TFT display needs an upgrade, and I'd like to see some metal accents in here just to jazz it up a bit. Now it's time to take the RZ for a drive. All right, let's fire it up with the button up here on the dashboard. Neat animation that flows from the TFT onto the infotainment screen. And a few chimes later, we are live. Our drive mode is selected by going into the car icon. I wish this was a controller here that was physical somewhere in the console, but I have to do this, and then I hit the car again, go to drive mode, and then I choose from these options. Normal, Sport, Eco, Range, which will like kill the AC and just maximize your range, and then a custom mode where you can change up the steering feel and the throttle response. We'll start in normal. And then to show the camera system, you can hit this view button here, and that will show you a 3D projection scanning around the vehicle that you can stop at any point in time. Also, notice that this projection is of our exact vehicle. So you got that black hood, and you've got the ether paint job. That's pretty neat considering so many other vehicles kind of skimp and just show you a generic view. And then if I hit this button, it will show us a projection from inside the vehicle of the road, kind of at knee level, which is cool. I'm just not sure how useful that necessarily is. And then if I go to reverse by pressing down on the selector and turning left, that will bring up a backup camera in a pretty high resolution with trajectory lines along with another 3D projection from overhead. And that tone stays with us the entire time we're in reverse. So hopefully you're not backing up for too long. And then down and over to drive. And away we go. Let's start things off with the world famous horn test. Ooh, so very nice and sharp. That's a stop sign, sir, which you just ran. That's okay. You deserve the horn after I hit it. And you would have noticed because that was a punchy tone. Turn signal sound. It's pleasant. I like that. The powertrain in the RZ450e is the combination of a larger electric motor up front and a smaller one at the rear, giving us an all-wheel drive setup. paired with a 71.4 kilowatt hour battery pack and a total of 313 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. Now, compared to the Toyota BZ4 extra letters and numbers, that's about 100 horsepower more, and you get standard all-wheel drive in this vehicle, whereas the BZ4X is standard in front drive, and you can add in the all-wheel drive setup. Our range right now, it says we've got 170 miles of range, which is about 80-85% of the total range of 196 miles. On these 20-inch wheels, you can get up to 220 miles if you go with the 18-inch wheel option. Though I will admit, even when I charged it up to 100%, I'm not seeing even 196 miles as the estimate. I got closer to 187, 188 miles. And even at the max range of 196 miles, that is pretty significantly less than its major rivals. So it could give some people range anxiety. Here in normal mode, the throttle response is very measured. Of course, the electrification means that if you need more power, that can come on instantly by just giving it a little more throttle. These seats are phenomenally comfortable, supporting me in all the right places. I do feel like my seating position is just a bit high, and I wish the steering wheel could raise up. But even as you do, I have it in the tallest setting right now, it's kind of obscuring with this attention monitor system. It's obscuring some of the data on the TFT display. Let's try out the turning radius. Fully cranked. That's stellar. Such a good turnaround. And back to the wheel placement for a second. The reason that it is actually quite low, and the reason that this setup is not very well thought out, is because Lexus and even Toyota actually designed this whole setup for the steer-by-wire yoke, where it kind of cuts off here, and that wouldn't be a problem for your visibility. But here it is with the traditional wheel. The ride quality, with this independent McPherson strut front suspension and double wishbone rear with fixed dampers, is fabulous. Gosh, this is good. You would think this was an adaptive damper setup. It's just so pleasant riding, absorbs all the road imperfections. This is very true Lexus stuff right here. In terms of regen braking, you adjust that with the paddles here. And right now I have it kind of in the coast setting, but you can add in up to 3 different levels of regen. And it slows you down, but never truly a one-pedal drive amount of regen slowing. Though I am thankful that you can coast with the least amount of regen. Now we need to see if the RZ450e is quick to 60, and for that I've got my race box set up here. I'm going to move to the sport drive mode to quicken that throttle response. Gives us a red surround for the gauge cluster, and then I'm just going to pin my foot on the throttle. And there it is in 4.9 seconds. Right on line with what independent tests have seen from this vehicle, and definitely quick enough for the average Joe. And only when I've planted my foot on the accelerator have I actually heard anything from the RZ. Without any artificial noises being piped in, that's just natural electric motor sound. And it's a cool noise, in addition to the mid-range punch of this thing. Which isn't going to press you hard in the back of your seat, but it is going to be enough for passing power. Especially when delivered, as I said, instantly when you get your foot on the accelerator. Certainly, like the 0 to 60, the mid-range punch in the RZ is going to be plenty for what I think is going to be the target buyer, which is probably a Lexus RX owner that's ready to make the move to full electrification. And that shopper will appreciate that the brake pedal feel is natural and quite linear. You can just gracefully make your way up to a stop. Now, while I don't expect an RZ customer to be hunting for a good canyon road, I do think we should simulate some emergency maneuvers you might need to make in this vehicle. So I've turned off traction and stability control, which probably wouldn't do, but just hear me out here. I'm going to do a full ABS braking, and then I'm going to cut in pretty aggressively into this curve. So here goes. Full force braking, little wiggle, not great feel. Turn in is sharp. Wants to plow, but liftoff will correct. And then scuttles us out of the curve. About what I expected, to be honest. I was a little surprised. I got more feedback in terms of resistance through the steering wheel than I anticipated. I expected just about nothing, but I got something. It would have been nice to do that with the steer-by-wire yoke to compare, but that won't be available in the US for at least a little while. They say they're fine-tuning it. The braking was the most suspect in that situation. It kind of wiggled on me, first the vehicle, but then the pedal itself gave out, and so I wasn't really confident in our braking. The turn-in was sharp, and then the vehicle stayed stable through the curve with a fair amount of lean. It did want to plow the nose with understeer. Once again, not a performance vehicle. In an emergency situation, it's going to be fine. I just wish I had a bit more bite from those brakes. And now that we're on the highway, let's take it out of sport and go to the range mode. And I've got traction and stability back on. I'll activate the driver assistance features, and this is interesting to note. In range, you are limited to 63 miles per hour with the adaptive cruise, and that must be from them testing and knowing that this is the optimal speed to maximize your range. I'm actually tired of that. Let's go out of range. Let's go to eco. You can go a little faster and adjust that speed. Taking my hands off the wheel momentarily just to see how it stays in the center with the lane trace assist. It's doing a good job of that. Now, this is not a hands-free system, and so it does want me to put my hands back on the wheel. We do have traffic jam assist, which at low speeds, you can take your hands off the wheel and it'll stay in the center and do the adaptive cruise thing. Listening here for the NVH level at highway speeds. It's quiet. We did just get onto a louder road surface, but this cabin is hushed. The ride is pleasant on the highway, and the systems just work. And that's going to lead me into the miles per hour word of the day, which for the 23 Lexus RZ 450e is contented, meaning satisfied or at ease, because the buyer of this vehicle doesn't really care that this is not the most innovative EV on sale. It doesn't have the most range. It's not the most powerful, but everything just kind of works, and you're comfortable. You're content. Before we discuss pricing and competition, let's talk about the top speed, the MPGe equivalent, and the charging for the RZ. The top speed is limited to 99 miles per hour. The MPGe equivalent is 96, and this vehicle can take a max DC fast charging rate of 150 kilowatts per hour. So you can go from 10 to 80% in around 30 minutes, and if you've got a level 2 input, then you're looking at 9.5 hours. And those speeds are on the slower end of the segment. Let's check in on our range here. So it says we've traveled about 33 miles, and for apples to apples, I started out in normal, so we'll go back to normal for the range estimate of 101 miles. We've used up 69 miles of estimated range, but have only traveled 33 miles. That's a pretty big delta. And granted, we did do a few full accelerations there, but that's perhaps within the realm of reason for a daily drive. So you don't have a whole lot of miles in your total estimate anyway. If you're using that much, you might start to worry with range anxiety. The starting figure for the RZ450e is about $60,000 for the premium trim. If you want this luxury trim, that's going to start around $65,000. And this vehicle, as tested with that not great looking two-tone paint, is about $67,300. Competitors, there are actually quite a few of them, but we'll keep it to the premium / luxury segment. So we've got the Tesla Model Y long range. That's going to start around $60,000. It's going to make 384 horsepower. It will get to 60 in 4.8 seconds, and the total range is 330 miles. We've got the Cadillac Lyriq, and I'll think about the dual motor version because this is all-wheel drive, and the dual motor of that would be all-wheel drive. That's going to start around $65,000. It will make 500 horsepower, get to 60 in under 4 seconds, while having a range of about 300 miles. And then finally, we've got the Audi e-tron that's going to start around $72,000. It will make 402 horsepower, gets to 60 in about 5.1 seconds, and has a total range of just 222 miles. As it stacks up then, though it's by a very small margin, the Lexus RZ has the lowest starting figure. The cabin is comfortable, the tech is solid, the exterior is pretty cool looking if you don't get the two-tone paint. But with that charge rate and with the total range being as low as it is, even if you get the 18-inch wheels, that's going to hold a lot of people up. Only would I really recommend this vehicle to someone who is looking for around-town comfort and doesn't really think they'll ever get close to exceeding that range in a given day. If that's you, if you're coming out of a Lexus RX and you're ready to go all electric, absolutely, this is a good choice. But for everyone else, I'd really recommend my #1 pick in the segment right now, which is the Cadillac Lyriq. That vehicle looks great outside and in. It's got good range. It's got incredible power. It just checks a lot of boxes while being, in my opinion, the quietest and tied with this as the best riding luxury EV small SUV. Which would you guys choose? Would you go with the Model Y, which looks terrible but has great range? Would you go with the Cadillac Lyriq, my #1 pick? Would you go with the Audi e-tron, or would you have the Lexus RZ? Let me know in the comments. I hope you guys have enjoyed this POV drive review. If you did, please like, comment, and share the video. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell to get notified, and I'll see you next time.